It's spring, college decisions have come out, and like millions of other students, I was once in the position of agonizing over where I was going and what I was going to do. So I thought it would be a fitting time to talk about my college experience and how it led to where I'm at now. If you're new here, I'm Kat. I'm a brand designer who graduated from UC Berkeley with a degree in sustainable environmental design. Let me take you on a little tour while I tell you my story. My design journey started with this little letter right here. After several anxiety-inducing months, I had gotten off the waitlist for UC Berkeley and was accepted into the College of Natural Resources as a Conservation and Resource Studies major. Keep in mind, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I was pretty sure I was interested in environmental science. I liked trees, I liked the environment, I wanted to save it, so I kind of chose that one on a whim. Honestly, it's pretty outrageous that colleges just expect kids to have a major picked and ready to go. I feel like I spent so much time trying to get good grades and do all the things necessary to get into a college that I never had that time to find a passion outside of this. So here I was, this incredibly lost, incredibly anxious freshman, and my little anxious ass was just walking around campus when this guy came up to me and gave me this random flyer. This was a flyer for a student-led class called Intro to Illustrator and Photoshop. Now, Berkeley doesn't actually have any formal graphic design classes taught by professors because they don't have a formal graphic design program and they don't have a formal graphic design major. But luckily, there are tons of student-led initiatives like this design club called Innovative Design, and for some reason, this flyer and this class and the concept of taking it was really calling to me. I had always grown up drawing and loving art, but I had never done anything remotely related to graphic or digital design. So I had to apply to this little class with my sheer words, and I am so grateful that this incredibly cringe application got me in. My first semester of freshman year, I ended up taking Intro to Illustrator and Photoshop. By the first class, I had just completely fallen in love with it. I started practicing every single day outside of my required classes, in my spare time. Whenever I had the chance to just open up Illustrator, I did it. I started taking more of those student-led classes, and I started to take electives that were as close to design as you could possibly get. Now, I was bad, and I was really bad. But I started to realize that any form of design or art was a lot more appealing to me than any of the conservation classes that I was currently taking. So I started to do a little bit of searching, and I started noticing that a lot of the classes on the course catalogs that really appealed to me and sounded and looked interesting were in the College of Environmental Design. Realistically, I feel like I could have gotten away with just keeping my major and not switching my course load, but I honestly had a pretty stupid reason for switching my major. I actually made this pros and cons list in my notes app, and all signs were pointing to me just staying in my major, but I was very stupid and very shallow. But I really did think that sustainable environmental design sounded like the cooler major, so I went all in on making that switch. Some of the design classes that I took offered projects that occasionally allowed me to practice drawing and art, which was really helpful. I remember feeling so guilty because I'd be watercoloring in the forest or in nature, and I would get home and all my roommates would be crying and super stressed out about their electrical engineering homework or their physics test, and I would just be oh, that sucks, man. Check out what I made in the forest today. Honestly, I felt kind of guilty for having so much fun. I felt like I just wasn't setting myself up for success because everyone around me was trying so hard and doing so many useful things and learning hard skills, and it just didn't feel like I was doing that. But I feel like if I could go back in time and talk to my younger self, I would just give her a big hug and tell her that everything is going to be okay and not to be so anxious and just allow myself to have fun. If you don't want to change your major, or that's just not a realistic option for you, you really don't have to. I feel like you just need to make an effort to practice on your own time. Sustainable environmental design was in no way related to graphic design, so everything in my portfolio ended up coming from personal projects or from club work anyway. By the end of sophomore year, I had built up a pretty good portfolio, strong enough to land me my first real design internship. I spent a summer in New York on the 49th floor of this building every single day as a graphic design intern for Aptive, which was an audio-based fitness app. This internship actually taught me a lot of hard design skills that I definitely would not have gotten in any of my other classes that I took here. I feel like a lot of the learning happens out of the classroom when you're actually just applying yourself. So in internships and your first job. I came back to school junior year extremely excited to take on the design world. By then I had scored an officer position in the same design club that had taught me everything I knew. I was teaching my own branding class to other students. And I was really gaining confidence in my skills and ability as a designer. And then March of 2020 happened, and as we know, everything changed. I know that this time was filled with so much grief and uncertainty and despair, and I am so privileged to have found a silver lining in a time that was extremely unfortunate for so many people. Berkeley gave students the option to take all of their classes for a pass or no pass instead of a grade, and I decided to run with it, even though it was kind of frowned upon by my counselor. At this point, I think I knew that I wouldn't be using my major too much. I was learning how to calculate the rate at which heat flowed through walls and using geographic information systems for urban planning, and while it was cool, it just really wasn't my cup of tea. So I decided to dedicate a lot of my free time to doing what I loved. I had a pretty good sense that design was something I wanted to pursue as a career. So I spent the next couple of months in quarantine, continuing to make what I enjoyed. The summer after my junior year, I started a remote internship at Herman Shearer, which is a design studio based in LA. And this is where I learned the bulk of my hard skills. Quick tip, if you're starting an internship, just think about what you want to learn and what you really want to get out of it, and tell your mentor exactly that. I pretty much wanted to learn everything possible. I wanted to be this little sponge that just soaked up all this design information. So I asked to be put on any project they had, whether it be social media or branding or web design. This was the summer that I was introduced to Figma, and this is where my love for Figma started. So shout out to you, Danny, if you're watching this. So junior year summer turned into senior year. And I started senior year more or less the same, just designing what I wanted, having fun. I made my own take on Inktober, called it Brandtober, challenged myself to make a brand every single day of October, and I posted that to my Instagram. This was kind of when my Instagram started gaining a little bit of traction, and I got this DM one morning. This was my first real freelancing brand request, and I was so ridiculously terrified. But every time I feel scared or start to doubt myself, I think of this one very specific scene from Cars 3. If you're not familiar with this franchise, it's a world where instead of people, you have cars, and Lightning McQueen is the main guy. He's the star. But by the third movie, he's starting to age out and slow down. His personal trainer asks him how he knew he could be the best, fastest race car in the world, and he just responds with,
"I just never thought I couldn't."
And if Lightning McQueen can believe in himself that much, then I can too. So I took on this project, and I took on a couple of other branding requests, and slowly but surely, I accidentally became a freelance designer. It was terrifying and scary, and I had no idea about anything related to packaging. There were lots of nights Googling things, watching YouTube tutorials, and honestly crying because I felt so in over my head. But through lots of trial and error and asking the occasional design friend for help and advice, I started to get the hang of it. My last semester of senior year, I was working on 3 projects that would launch over the next couple of years: Hyper, Halia, and Lentiful. By the time I graduated, I decided to continue freelancing. As scared as I was about the logistics of being my own boss, I also just really loved working for myself. In November of 2021, I took on as Hyper's creative lead and continued to do a bunch of really fun, cool projects with them and other people. I've only been out of college for 2 years now, and I'm by no means an expert in this field. I'm very much still learning how to be a better freelancer, designer, and person every day. But if I were to give myself advice, and if you were to take away anything from this video, let it be this. Make your own projects, practice every day, believe in yourself, believe you can do whatever you set your mind to, and have the audacity to carry that confidence with you when you're scared and terrified and tired. And for my college kids, you do not need to major in this field to actually work in it. It's not so much about the college you go to or the major you study, it's more about the effort you put into whatever you want to do. If you don't know what you want to do, that's completely fine. You'll figure it out. I became a graphic designer through a lot of trial and error, but as cliche as those takeaways are, they really helped me get to where I am today. I really hope that this helps in some way, no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're just starting out in college or you've graduated a long time ago. I hope you got something out of this. Whatever you're trying to do, I know you can do it. So, good luck and have fun.